Good evening, everybody. It's so lovely to see such a lovely crowd here, and I'm really feeling honored that all of you took the time out on a busy Friday evening. And I know how busy Fridays are because the next day is Saturday, and you want to chill. So I'm really happy and grateful that all of you have made it here, and I see a lot of loved faces. My childhood friends are here, Sri Kumar and Geeta and all, and Sivakami and my son, the original baby blue bottom, as I always tell people. So I'm really happy about this. And I'd actually like to say a few words before we get into the book and everything. I would like to speak a few words about Red River, my publisher. And Red River, as most of you know, they originally started out as a poetry publisher. They published poetry. But after that, and after publishing many poetry books and many award-winning poets, Dibajyoti Sarma, who is a poet and an artist himself, he decided to do something crazy, something very brave, and something very new. He waded into very deep waters, and he brought out this new imprint of Red River called Red River Prose. And now, what's so great about prose? This prose is not your not short story, it's not novella. The prose that he is focused on is the novella, which is a much neglected form of prose writing, storytelling. And it is why I say it's very brave of him, because Red River is practically a one-man show. Dibajyoti Sarma does most things by himself. He even designs, although he does have a few designers working on the book covers, but he has a very sharp aesthetic sense, being an artist himself and a poet. So he overlooks that, and he brought in a very talented editor, Sucharita Datta Asani, to head the prose wing of Red River. And I've had experience, I have had the privilege of working with Sucharita before, because she was looking after Kitab, which is a very well-known Singapore-based publishing house. So she was the editor for some time, and I had worked with her. I had submitted to Kitab, and I had worked with her together. So I knew her way of working. And then my experience with her, again, for this novella was just fabulous. In fact, when we were talking about taking my book to various cities, I insisted on going to Pune, where Sucharita is based, because for me it was like a pilgrimage. I wanted to go and meet her in person, thank her, because without her, this book would not have been what it is. She has really been with me in this journey, and she's a gifted writer herself, and I couldn't have asked for a better publisher or a better editor to work with, because this is a very slim book. It took the longest time to write, and it's a very intense book, at least for me. I hope those of you who are planning to get the book and who've already got the book, I hope you experience the same amount of intensity in your experience of reading the book as I experienced when I wrote it. Now, before coming here, I asked Dibba, I asked Sucharita to say a few words about what Red River Prose means to them, because Red River Prose is still looking for manuscripts, and they really want to take the novella genre, the novella form, to greater, newer heights. A lot of experimentation is happening with the authors that they're working with, and there are, I read Amir Hussein's book, brought out by Red River, and it is, in that book, he seamlessly weaves from autofiction into autobiography, and it's a very surreal novella. And then so they've done very exciting things. So I'll just read out the vision of Dibajyoti Sarma and Sucharita. So first, Sucharita Datta Asani, this is what she says. She says, "We are committed to publishing writing without getting into the solely consumerist trap of profit and loss through book selling. In the future, readers will hopefully look back upon these books for what they are: good writing that is often overlooked in the huddle for numbers. Without drawing any exclusive line, what we are looking for are stories that are interesting, important, relevant, and short." This the novella is a short form. Now, Deepajyoti Sarma has this to say: Red River Stories seeks to publish novellas and short stories, slightly longer ones, with page lengths of not more than 150 pages. As our name suggests, our primary focus is on stories. Stories that need to be told, stories which have not yet found a decent platform, stories from mainland India away from the metros, stories of the people and by the people from the margins, irrespective of caste, creed, sexuality, and gender. As the saying goes, every person has a novel inside them, but often a writer needs help in the telling. We, the publisher and the editor, have a collective experience of more than 40 years in the publishing industry, and we understand writing. Thus, we are committed to helping authors craft their perfect stories. So, this gives a gist of what the intent, the editorial and the publishing intent of Red River Prose. And with that, I'll hand over the mic to Shri, and we'll get on.
There were a couple of points that I had noted down. The second point is, it seemed to me that it was either written in one riotous flow, or it was a long process of diving in and surfacing, working and reworking. I asked you just now about this and you said it's a bit of both. Could you elaborate?
I shared a personal story with you, and you were kind of hesitant. You said, "Are you okay with sharing a personal stories?" And I said, "Yes, I'm absolutely okay," because after a certain point in your life, you reach a certain age, everything is all right, you know. So, like in Bangalore, we met many of my husband's little cousins, and by little cousins I mean they are almost as young as my son, and they're really in that new generation. And they heard for the first time that I stole my father-in-law's cigarettes. So they were shocked. But the thing is that at my age, I can make these confessions and get away with it because I'm kind of no age away, right?
Wrong.
So the personal story regarding this particular book is I had taken a sabbatical from my career when my son was born, and my husband at that time taken transfer to a beautiful city called Bhubaneswar. My son was around 6 months old when I joined him then, and he was for 1.5 years, almost 2, when he came back. We were there for barely 2 years. Now, during the transfer time, packers, it was a new concept at that time, and they would be staying in the house and they would be packing up all our furniture and stuff. So it was suggested to me that I should leave my infant son then with my in-laws, who were luckily in Calcutta, just a 4-hour train journey away. And it was a decision all of us collectively took, and there was no compulsion. Nobody told me you have to do this or anything. I went along with it. And I very happily, handed over my son and all his things to my parents-in-law. They were very happy to look after him for those 2 days that we would need for packing. But when I came back that afternoon, I remember taking the morning train back to Bhubaneswar, and my husband was in office. I lay down on the floor and I felt so cold and I felt so bereft. That terrifying, intense feeling of not only losing my baby forever, but actually having my womb carved out of me. I felt I had lost everything. It was such a nerve-wracking experience. And a few days after that, as soon as we had settled, we were getting transferred to Calcutta, and we were there for another just 2 years. And as soon as I went to Calcutta and I settled in a little bit, before rejoining my office, I wrote the first version of this story, which is here today. But at that time I called it Baby Blue Bottom, because Baby Blue Bottom was what I felt I had lost. And I was kind of grieving, even though my baby was back in my arms at hardly any time, but I was still grieving. That feeling was so traumatic and so intense.
This we'll continue with this train of thought, but also, was there any point in your life, that was the first question, was there any point in your life when you imagined the existence of a mirror life, of a parallel existence that didn't follow exactly the same rules?
Always, right from my childhood. In fact, I often felt that I am not me, and there is another me somewhere there who's watching me. And even now, and for the longest time in my childhood, I used to feel that the person who is physically living this life is an imposter or, an automaton or something, and the real me is, somewhere else watching all this, play out.
So this is translated into the book, and it took a lot of time. From this time you mentioned when he was a young little boy to now, it's a long time, and you've written so much earlier. So, which point did you bring this out and think that I should write this? And what were the changes? It must have gone through a lot of changes, and then the role of Sucharita after that. How did it reach her and what happened? So that whole journey.
Okay. What happened is this: I wrote the first version on foolscap paper with the dot pen, and I left it. And I went back to my job, copywriting, and in between I would write other things. I mean, during lunch breaks and all that, I would write my short stories, I would write my poems and stuff like that. But I never went back to this. It was lying there. Then over a period of time, another, I think, 4 or 5 years later, in between, my daughter was born in 1997, and 1998 we shifted out of the country, and over there I was not working, I was just freelancing, a little bit, but I had lots of time on my hand, in the sense I did. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I went back to this foolscap manuscript, and I uploaded it on the computer. And then, of course, at that time every time you upload an old thing, you tend to tinker with it. So I did do some tinkering. And I remember, I think I wrote about 12,500 or 13,000 words or so. And it was there. It was just there. I didn't do anything with it. And I kept on writing other things, short stories, and then my novel, and this and that, and all that. And this was just lying there, but it was still inside me. And from time to time, I would keep going back to it. And I would read a little bit, and I would be very unsure, because I would think, who wants to hear about a baby? A baby's voice. Who wants to know about all this? I'm sure, okay, it means something to me. I don't think it'll mean anything to anyone, so I didn't send it out. All these years later, then, when Red River approached me, and they said, would you like to do a novella for us? And then I went back to my old files and I found this. And I went back to them and I said, so I have something very unusual. I don't think you will like it. Sucharita said, no, please send it to me. I'm the one who decides. So I sent it to her and she said, yes, this is workable. I said, how is this workable? She said, no, this is very workable. But so many years have passed, you need another perspective. And then when I went back to it, I realized that the woman who'd written Baby Blue Bottom, the first voice, had kind of, evolved or whatever, matured into this woman. And my ideas of motherhood have changed. My ideas of motherhood, when I was actually looking after the two babies, were different. Suddenly, I was being confronted by two women. And then it started falling into place. So, the older woman in this book is a very recent piece of writing. But Baby Blue Bottom's voice is that voice. And I didn't change that. And I was afraid that it would not, gel, it would not sink or whatever. But Sucharita reassured me that she was comfortable with it. In fact, we did a lot more work on this older, cynical woman.
Did you work on the earlier?
Not much. Some of
you
it.
left it as it.
Yes, most of it. Maybe I corrected a few typographical errors or grammar or something, and at one point of time, yes, there was one, the absolute original one had one death, in which the baby dies and that's it. But later on, when I went back to it, when we were living abroad, I couldn't bear the idea of, having the baby die in the book. The baby cannot die, the baby has to live. So I brought in an alternative reality. and that was added to the. Then when I went back to Sucharita, I told her that, look, I've got this alternative reality. She said, it's fine. Because reality anyway is a very fluid, lucid thing in this book.
I think that's why two women whose poetry, I think it's amazing the writing that both of you do. I think I'm coming together and working on your novel. It must have been, you call it a novel, a novella?
Novella.
Just because you had to say something to them, or what?
No, it is a novella. This cannot be a novel. It couldn't be. In fact, I was trying very hard to. In fact, Sucharita kept telling me, listen, Ram, you have to increase the words. This is only 20,000 words. So I worked some more, and I kept adding words.
So what about the politics, the religion, all that came in for the second movement?
The religion, one part of the religion was there right away because this was during Babri Masjid.
Yeah, but then everything becomes empty and the religion sort of just...
Yes, because I stopped, I have this habit of, I don't go to temples, I don't make a ritualistic, I don't do any ritualistic puja as such. But what I do is there are a couple of mantras that I keep saying to myself and I meditate on that. When I was a child, my father had said something which stayed with me. He said that, in Bengali he said it, puja hoy ghore kone mone ar bone, which means if you want to really interact with God, it happens in the corner of your house, ghore kone, mone inside your mind, and bone in the forest. So he kind of basically told me to just eschew all these ritualistic things, and if you are totally focused, then you can have that connection with the divine connection, which is what I've always done. I used to go for long walks, when we lived in a very natural place, of natural beauty, and this is what I would keep on, telling myself. But there was a time in my life when I was very angry over everything. I was so angry, and I said, I don't want to have any kind of contact at all. And that is when this.
Because there are a couple of places where, here in the train, for example, I've just written this down. The spiritual element is, of course, there all along, but there's also the religious and the rituals, the traditional. The Babri Masjid demolition comes up as a horror memory. The mendicant selling religious items, which suddenly lose, I've just written it as items, which suddenly lose their value, and those small idols become, in your words, puppets made for business. And you call it the seller of piety. There seems to be a journey away from belief to skepticism, or is it an openness that allows anything to be possible? That's my question.
Well, I agree with you with the openness, because this skepticism that you pointed out has always been with me, because I've been deeply suspicious of people who make a huge brouhaha about the business of piety that they have with God. Why do you have to? What does God need with jewelry and gold and silver and all that? Why should any form of deity? Why would they need all that? They own the universe. So I always had this, and when I was young, and I would ask the aunties and elders in the house any such impertinent question, I would be slapped. And was sent off. But nobody would give me any answers. So I evolved, I developed my own theories and all that. And then there was this one thing that my father had said, so I kind of stuck that, I held on to it as a kind of a rudder. Because I was floating in the ocean, and there was nobody to guide me, there was nobody to tell me when I was, to hold on to something. So I've always been skeptical about people who make a big show of piety. I've always had this very intense need to have conversations, with whoever owns this universe.
Is in charge.
I don't think she or whoever is really in charge. I don't think she really cares, because. But that's a long discussion, so I won't get into that. So, which is where actually this is pointing out over the seller of piety. This was in the original version. I mean, not the absolute original, but when I decided that Baby Blue Bottle has to live, in an alternative reality for Baby Blue Bottom, I put in this. Because what actually dies for all of us, which is what I realized, is we lose the purity of our hearts. When babies are totally, children, their souls are clear. As we grow older, I believe that our souls become cloudier and cloudier, and we lose that touch with the divine. We start to, that is what actually metaphorically happens to this baby. Where, as a baby, he is able to converse with the cosmos, with the Almighty, with the omniscient presence. He has this connection. As he starts to grow older, they start becoming statues and pictures on calendars on the wall, and so on and so forth. He loses his ability to see that the mystical reality, if I may call it that. He loses his ability to see. So I wanted to illustrate that because I believe this is also what has happened to me, and my mother said something to me when a few years, or maybe months, this month before she passed away. She used to come out of the puja room and her face would be aglow. No matter what happened to her, no matter what she went through, when she finished with her puja, she was so intense in it, she would come out and her face would have this glow. And then in an old age, I asked her, Ma, how come you don't, I see you still do your puja, but you don't have that glow in your face. You're not kind of, what in Bengali we say, anmona. Not absent-minded, you're not, in a little world of your own. She said, I lost that ability. My soul is now clouded. So and then it occurred to me that maybe the older we grow, maybe we lose our purity. And the reverse doesn't happen. We begin as very pure beings, and more and more as we age, we become more and more impure.
So I think we will have to put all this in context. The title of the book is The Woman on the Red Oxide Floor. And she is thinking about the past and her baby, and many incidents which happened with the baby. But there is also a different part of it. This book is only 100 pages long, and it's like a little envelope where you stuff so much into it that you're afraid it'll tear. But what happens is, when the reader starts reading, so much of what is in him or herself goes into the book, and so much of what is in the book goes into the reader. There is an interaction. I think it's a tremendous book, in the sense that this slim volume can actually change your thinking afterwards. So what we are talking about, what we've been discussing, may not sort of indicate any of these things to you. But just buy it and read it. Like I said, it's 100 pages, but each word is loaded. I also wanted to ask you, the sense of anonymity in the story, the consciousness, nobody has a name except you call this poor baby Blue Bottom. You did protest?
I did.
Okay. The sense of
Yeah, thanks, Mark.
now the whole world knows this. The sense of anonymity in the story, the consciousness of individuals feeling and seeing and thinking their way through events, and your identity as the author, as an untouchable Shikhandin, rather than as a recognized writer exposing their art and self to the world. It's a mysterious person. Today, 2-3 people ask me, where is he? So, everything is anonymous. This is not how today, especially with the social media and all that, treats an author. But you prefer to be in that pristine ivory tower of old writers and sort of, get this book out, and people talk about the book, but you still stay safe.
Not so safe, actually, because the thing is, unlike Elena Ferrante, I don't have the marketing and the money wherewithal to actually become totally anonymous. I don't. And also, I think that doing something, I mean, spending so much of effort in order to make it a kind of a publicity stunt that you become this completely unknown entity is not. I mean, I have a problem with that. I don't find it integrity wise. I'm not comfortable with this. I'm here, I'm not trying to hide myself. I am who I am. But as first of all, Shikhandi is a character. You all know who Shikhandi is from the Mahabharata. Someone I've admired all my life for many, many reasons. And I feel that when, as a mother, as a wife, as a daughter, I'm a woman. But other than that, outside of that, it does not matter whether I'm a woman or a man or a transgender or a cisgender or anything, it doesn't matter. The intellect has no gender, the soul has no gender.
No, that's exactly what I asked, because Shikhandin is a very strong character.
Yes,
and you are behind that, and people don't like an author. Everybody knows about an author nowadays.
yes, but it's kind of
Even
awkward.
the name is not, except for close friends.
Yes, nobody knows me, that's true. People don't really know me. In fact, recently I was actually sharing this anecdote with someone here. My publisher wanted to send me to a writing festival, and the person, replied to me and said, yes, your author is most welcome. Please fill out this form. And then there was written author's gender. The person had no idea I'm a woman. And then I thought, okay, this person is from the literary field, but he doesn't know, anything. He doesn't know whether I'm a male or female. It is good. It's very comfortable for me because as a writer, I don't want to be known as a woman or a man because I have written many stories. In fact, my second book of short stories, Immoderate Men, are all stories from the man's point of view. And I have a whole bunch of stories actually. In fact, I love pretending, getting into the skin of a man and writing like a man or about a man or.
This is very interesting for me because maybe about 20-25 years ago, I wanted to do this.
Write as a woman.
Not really. A name.
Oh, okay.
That nobody would sort of, it could be like this. It could be a gender neutral name or something like that, which people couldn't get to and find me. But the work itself would
Yes.
Make it there.
It's so interesting for me that for the longest time you wanted to do this. For the longest time I also wanted to do this. Right at the beginning, I did not want to write in my legal name. I did not, but then initially my first stories were all written, in my legal name, and then I changed that to, R.K. Biswas instead of name. And then from there I evolved into Shikhandin. I wanted to be Shikhandin for I don't know, 40 years. But there was a certain shyness actually, I didn't want to be this person, who has all this air and thing about me. I am, mysterious. I didn't want to be that. I just want to be this quiet non-entity who has these books. Don't know me, know my books.
Absolutely, yeah. I just wanted, there was a question which came in, I'm not still sure about it. As the child died, spoilers? Has the child died in the railway accident, leaving his parents behind?
That is one reality, and in the other reality, the child doesn't. Because, as I was saying...
No, that's okay. Let them have that in their minds when they read the book, they will know. Sucharita, she's the editor, she's written, if the eternal seems to be a romantic, all-encompassing notion, the individual is faced with irony and that forever state of being caught between acceptance and defiance. Do you think this runs through the whole story?
I think that's best left to the reader to understand. Because a few people have come back to me with the book, and this book has kind of resonated differently with different people.
So when people ask you, very straightforward, very pertinent questions about certain things. Are there answers or not? Because I thought it was something which the reader then took for himself or herself and then made it their own.
Yes.
And then went through that and saw it as they felt fit. So would you be, I mean, if it was a different sort of an audience and different sort of person sitting here who wanted to ask, would you have replied to them and answered these questions very prosaically or what?
See, when people, you must have experienced this yourself with your books. You may have noticed when people who read your book, they come to you with a question, they already have the answer in them, and they actually, the question is a form of starting a discussion. So they already know, and then you kind of play the role of kind of guiding them towards what they already feel.
Okay, but here it's completely different. I told you it's a book which it's a different book. It's a new book. Shall we ask any questions that you would like? Yes, Harish. Yeah. Well, ask a question. No problem. Don't be shy. Ask.
I haven't read the book yet.
Okay, that nobody has read the book. No, only a few lucky people are. Now you'll be fortunate enough to take it home and read it. But anything that you could ask from what we've been discussing so far, the book that you've got in your hands, especially her classmates.
I do have a question. I don't know, may sound dumb. So there are, I'm louder. I've read some pages while I was also waiting. There are obviously two women, like you mentioned. Have you, because I always do this thing because I try to write, and whenever I go back to read what I've written, let's say 5 years ago or something, I feel like there is a different person. I'm always finding faults with that person, like, what is this sentence formation, like where are your thoughts, like, you should think better, where is your maturity, all this other thing I put in, I kind of like, go and scratch it off. But you said just now that you retained a lot of, those things. Where do you find the strength to do that? Or how does it even work? Because I don't think I can, I don't think it was, for me when I go back, it doesn't work because I always feel like there is an entirely different person, that person will not work to me. So how did you manage that?
Actually, for most of my works, I do exactly what you do. I just throw, in fact, I cut out chunks and I literally delete them out of the system. I don't even retain them in a scrap, file or whatever. I do that with my poetry, I do that, in fact, sometimes I take a whole poem out and throw them out. I do that with chapters in longer works, I do that with entire short stories. Every time I went back to this, and I have several files of several versions, I would somehow willy-nilly come back when it came to the baby's voice, when it came to the first mother. She was so pure and happy and she was doing all these rituals and stuff. I somehow, it seems I would be possessed and I would go back to how it was. I was unable to change it, so I'm not sure I was so much in control in this book. I think the book controlled me.
The first thing that I felt when I read the book was this strong, pure feeling of motherhood which came, and which is strange, because I'm a man. And also, Geeta had the same thing when she read it. And so I said, you asked the questions about motherhood. There's a purity about it, and there is this, you can feel the child and you can feel the mother. You feel each time the voice you feel that's coming from you. You can ask the question.
You've spoken for all the mothers, actually. It's so
Thank you.
beautiful. And so what I found was, one is the transition with your, like what you were saying, that really struck me. And you have this fear element where this apparition, she sees
The Petni.
So, Petni, yeah, yes. So, all that I could connect very easily because when you're protective about your child, you tend to imagine a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you have this thing, one is one you see as an imagination, the other is the reality. But they mirror each other,
Yes.
isn't it?
Yes.
So at one point I found that though you are saying you're not religious or ritualistic or anything, you're mentioning Krishna, the blue bottom, you're showing the child's rubber
Baby
doll,
Krishna.
yeah, and also the puja room thing. So,
Where the universe, that very
Yeah.
famous story of Krishna, he
yeah.
shows the universe in his tongue. Yeah,
Yes.
that's there. Yes.
So, were you thinking about Yashoda at any point? Because it reminds you so much. The story of Yashoda is also quite similar. So, what would you say?
At that point, Krishna leaves Yashoda and
Yes,
goes away, never comes
Yashoda,
back.
same
Yeah.
thing happens, no? Krishna leaves and never comes back. And she has only good memories with
Yeah, that's all she's left with, right?
yes.
Curiously, I didn't think of Yashoda at all. But I probably felt the same things that she felt.
Yes.
Without my mind articulating her name, without, I was experiencing her experience. But I was not, it was something that my heart or my soul was doing, not my mind. My mind was not involved. I'm not sure how much my intellect has worked in this book. Especially in the earlier one, it's intense emotion.
It's very intense. Throughout you find, and even the other woman, and the other woman thinks this is the other woman,
Yes,
and it's vice versa.
yes.
So, so interesting. You've spoken so much. There's philosophy, there's
Thank
so
you.
many things, so many things. It's very artistic. So, this is a question I wanted to ask you. So, you were saying you are not religious.
No, in the sense, I'm not biased.
Biased.
I'm not biased, and I call myself an agnostic because I believe in this great universal entity.
Yeah, that's how you end the book, actually.
Yeah.
But the beginning of the book itself, it speaks about the dreams and
Yes.
yes.
That was actually a very strong part of my childhood, and we had a very rigorous. We were kind of straddling two boats, you know. I mean, there were evening Saturday night dances and all that. We would see the parents going off to, and the cocktail parties and stuff like that. But in the mornings, and we were all made to get up very early in the morning and go through yoga, go through pranayama. Rigorous ritualistic pujas in the house. And there was an entire room. There were 3 kitchens in the house. One pure, absolute sattvic thing, and one because we are Bengalis, so Bengalis are meat eaters. So there would be one kitchen where, and there was a third kitchen where the non-Hindu meats were allowed, like ham and all that, because it was also at one level a very westernized kind of a thing. So, but this was absolutely, I remember my brother saying something like, we all went to these Catholic schools, and he would say, why should I recite the Our Father? He would recite the Kali mantra. Sharvamangala Mangale Shive Sharvapemi, he would say that. He said, I said that and during prayer class and I came away. I would never dare do that in school, but then I now eat it. So this was also there, And so even though you rebel against a lot of things, but it kind of goes inside you.
Yes. So the transition of this innocent young woman into the strong, whatever.
Cynical woman.
Yeah. Actually, even that speaks about yourself. I mean, any mother, I think.
Yeah,
when
because
children leave and you wonder what
you change as a mother.
Yes. So that transition. That's all.
Thank you so much.
I just had a thought when you, yes.
You had a question. I have. You had a question.
Let me ask my question first. Mr. Keshav, could you please? I just want, before I forget, that's right. You've written this and it's so much of yourself from yourself. And when you take it to a third person, like Sucharita, of course, she's also a Lord of the same fellow. So, I've also sort of, read from her, the beginning of her first book, and she sent it to me, and also I know her progress as well, the process as well. So, was there when other people, you see it through other people's eyes, your own work? Is there a difference? Do you want to change anything more? That's a.
No, I don't want to change anything because for me, if the reader comes to me and hits me with a stone, also that's acceptable. Because the person has done me the courtesy of reading my work, and that the reader as far as I'm concerned, is king. Because I am also a reader.
No, the editor.
Oh, the editor, I love all my editors. In fact, I've been very lucky in having very good editors.
So editors also love you?
Shikhandin definitely does. And yes, my editor in Penguin loved me a lot. She's a young girl, but she was just adorable. She and I got on famously.
Sorry, Keshav.
No, but it's because you have an advantage over me, you read the book. So your question was certainly more important than mine. I have read the book, I aim to take it from you.
Thank you.
But two things that came to my mind. One was the choice of your pen name.
Yes.
And how did you get it? The second thing is I gathered you're a copywriter.
Yes.
So when you write a longer version, do you find closure in the sense, do doubts come up that it could have been done differently? Because copy is, always in a hurry, right? Like literature in a hurry, as they call it, journalism. So copy is always in a hurry. So do you get the sense of self-doubt after a work is over, that it might have, when you read it again, do you get these jumping, this could have been a better word, I just want to know.
Always. And the thing is that because I have this very rigorous copywriting, in fact I was trained by Ram Ray, so you can imagine what kind of rigor he put me through. And I find it like, I write a lot of compressed writing, so I have to add, my editors have to tell me, please add words. Usually with writers, they say, lop off, cut off, there is too much of verbiage. In my case, it's different. I mean, I have to keep on adding.
Stretching it all the time.
Yes, I have to keep on, adding more, because a sentence, they will say, no, this sentence can be turned into a paragraph, because you're saying a lot in one sentence, so please, make it more. So I also have that experience, of having the need to expand when I've written, and I love the novella form actually. Honestly, it's my favorite, in fact, one of my favorite authors, favorite books are novellas. I'm sure everybody's read The Old Man and the Sea, and Of Mice and Men, and The Pearl, and, Kafka, of course, Metamorphosis, one of the most fabulous. In fact, I forgot to say when I was introducing the novella to everybody, science fiction or speculative fiction, which is a very favorite genre with me, it translates beautifully into novella. In fact, some of the world's most famous, Frankenstein was actually a novella. And the novella format lends itself beautifully to world building and at the same time keeping it succinct. So I do hope to write more novellas, and this was a very exciting experience for me.
And your pen name?
My name, Shikhandin. Shikhandin is, as you know.
That I know, but why did you choose it as mine?
I chose it because
You said it's a favorite character.
Yes, I have a great, profound respect for Shikhandin of the Mahabharata, and I also felt that deep inside me I was a Shikhandin because I'm constantly evolving, and my mind and my soul has no gender. I mean, it's only when I'm a wife and a mother that I am a woman, when I'm doing these womanly things on this earth, that part of me is a woman. But then when I'm writing, or even when I'm cooking, I'm not a woman. I'm just a human being, right? And there is I think we should not set too much on the physical appearance of a person, focus on the gender, because nowadays we see so many people who have the bodies of men or bodies of women, but deep inside they are the other, right? So that also, I have a lot of empathy for people who are different, who feel differently inside, and intellectually I feel that I should not be either a man or a woman. I mean, tomorrow I can write a huge big tome of a book purely from a man's perspective. Will that make me a man? No. It's just that I would be able to, my mind will go inside that male character, and I think I will be able to do it better if I feel I'm not a woman when I'm writing. You know?
Very interesting, because this novel I'm writing now, half the novel is written by a girl.
You're,
Any other?
In the end, you bring in the wars happening in the world, and but did you feel it was digressing from the main thing, or was it a purposeful?
it's reality, actually.
Yeah,
is
it's a reality.
So since I was writing it in this reality and the Ukraine war was happening, and it's kind of spilling over everywhere. And actually it's become part of, like, I'm actually terrified that we are going to get into the Third World War, or what will appear to be the Third World War. And I'm, in a way, I'm distressed as a person for the way the world is, to kind of write it. So that is actually seeping into a lot of my writing.
Yeah.
I can't help it. And I think I'm not the only one. A lot of poets and writers are, experiencing this, and they are writing like this. I'm not the only one. I'm just part of that big crowd. I'll come back to Babri Masjid. Babri Masjid, I wrote about it at that time because what happened at the Babri Masjid actually affected me. And I remember my son was a baby then, and I was very, very distressed. I was exceedingly distressed, and that is why it is in this book. Because,
Classmates?
you wanted to ask a question.
Hi, I have a question and a request. The request is, could you read out a small passage from the book?
Yes, thank you, certainly.
Yes. And the question is, how are you going to compare this book with your previous books? We'll talk about your previous books and this in comparison.
I can't compare it. I cannot compare this novella with anything that I have written, because no, I think because this is a very intense and very long drawn out experience for me, even though it's one of the shortest things that I have done, but it has been a very, very intense and very elongated, intense experience, writing experience for me. So no, I cannot compare this with anything, and I don't think I will ever be able to compare with anything that that I am working on now, or I will be working on in the future. No. This is by itself. I don't think I will repeat it. Memory can flash its wings like a butterfly and take away a sliver of your mind, rendering you temporarily insane. All it takes is a moment, and you can go back anywhere in time, revel or wallow in that state. Thus it happens as an afternoon opens its shutters like a window, revealing a woman prostrate upon the floor. The woman is young, in her mid-20s, and sad. She is as sad as one who has experienced death and is yet to recover from its blow. She is lying on the floor, which is made of red oxide, an inviting color to anyone who has been standing in the hot sun outside. The front of her shirt is crumpled under her breast. Her bare midriff is flat on the floor, skin on cold cement. The right side of her face is also flat on the floor. Her eyes trail the expanse of the red, cool, and soothing surface around her. She draws in air cooled by the floor through her nostrils, and it feels like nectar down her throat. The walls of the room are smooth and line-washed. To the casual observer, it's a serene afternoon, and what is lying on the floor is only a woman. Nothing of any importance, nothing extraordinary, nothing. She is not weeping, at least there are no visible tears. Her cheeks are dry. From time to time she convulses, trembles like one having a seizure. Her arms outstretched, she claws the hard red surface. Her nails make a scratchy sound, which would normally have set her teeth on edge, but now her senses are elsewhere. Her breath comes out in gusts and gasps. She feels acutely bereft, the way a mother would when a baby is dead. But her baby is not dead. She has merely sent him away to his grandparents' home. She did it herself, yes, she did. Though at this time she's unclear in her head about the how and the why. So this is just a short paragraph, and I just want to point out one thing. The chapters in the book are not really the regular kind of numbers. It begins with infinity, the symbol of infinity, and then it moves on from infinity it goes to 0, from 0 it goes to 1, and so on and so forth. There is I'll leave it to people to find out for themselves. I shouldn't take up too much of your evening. You've been such a fabulous audience.
There was a time when you wrote in a man's voice, cross-gender.
Yes.
Will you be able to do it now?
I was doing it.
You are doing it.
Yes. In fact, for Moderate Men, it was the book of short stories. The stories are all from a man's point of view. And in fact, I am working on 2-3 short stories right now, which are from a man's point of view, or rather, men speak.
Yeah. So, does it suggest start with this, or is it just because Red Oxide Floor?
Both actually. The woman is really on the Red Oxide Floor. And yes, it is very stark because as the first passage that I read, just a woman, nothing. Yes. And that is what society also views women to be most of the time. Nothing. Just a woman, nothing. Sorry, but that's the patriarchy. No, I'm telling you, apologizing. He's going to catch me again. Yes.
I haven't read the book, but I find the title very evocative. A woman on the Red Oxide Floor. That in itself, I think, is very interesting.
Thank you. It actually happened. I mean, there
I
was
know,
a Red Oxide.
but then it can conjure so many kinds of images in
that
one.
is exactly
Yeah.
what my editor told me.
So what is this woman and why is she on the floor? Besides, what can I do? So many.
No, basically, I think your question also about how you get into the character and things like that. One half of it is memory, because you've lived through so many experiences and it's all there. And when you're writing, some of these things that your experiences come and help you out in these things. So research is one part of it. For example, it's Maria's Room, it's about Goa. And there was a gentleman called Abraham Murali who was a lecturer in Crystal College, and he also brought out a book called The SI. So he was releasing his book in Guatemala, and I went to him and told him, sir, I'm writing this book about what do I do, what are the books I should refer. And he said, Sri Kumar, is your book fiction or history? I said, fiction. Use your imagination. In fact, when I went to interview him for the Hindu, they misspelled his name as Abraham Early. And he said, how can they? I'm never early. I'm always late, he said. So we bring this to a conclusion, where there is no conclusion actually in your book.
Yes.
So we will pretend that there is a conclusion, and we'll hand over the mic formally to Harish, who's been looking at his watch about 5 times.
Why don't you just hold up the book?
Yeah, these are all flagged.
Yeah, take a
Sri, please stand with me.
We are happy to release the book.
Thank you.
We'll give the first copy to your son, Chirag.
He has his copy.
No, this is a format, but you have to go through it. Autograph. Has to be given to you. One copy has to be given to you. this I will.
I'll add this to my collection.
This is a this is a picture.
Where's that?
Because the book is about jungle.
Sadly. Should we come close?
Thank you.
Thank you all
Thank you so
once
much.
again for choosing to spend your Friday evening with us.
Yes.